Hey everybody, I'm Francesca Maxime and this is Wise Girl, and it is, I guess, January 9th already. We've already pretty much come into the new year with a bang, and it's kind of exciting to see everybody online and just talk a little bit about what's ahead for 2018, because I definitely feel like there's a lot of good in store. There's a lot of folks that have been going through a hard time in 2017, I know, because they talk to me, and I'm starting to offer some mindfulness meditation teaching classes in response to that here in Brooklyn, New York, and I'll also be offering some teachings online. So if anybody wants to be in touch with me and wants a personal mindfulness consultation, wants me to lead meditation classes where you are, or do online offerings to you via Skype, I'm available for that as well. I can talk more about that later. But the main reason why I want to talk to you today is because I want to look forward to 2018 with an open heart. And not only with an open mind, but with an open heart. And see if we can't figure out a way of changing not so much what's happening outside of ourselves, but maybe figuring out a different kind of way to relate to what's happening inside ourselves a little bit differently. And that includes starting with the foundation of what I found to be enormously helpful, which is what we can call our true nature, and an understanding of what our true nature even really is. Our true nature is actually a beautiful thing, and I think a lot of us forget that it's what's underneath all of the conditioning and all of the things that have happened to us and all of our circumstance and all of the hazara that's going on in different worlds, whether it's our personal world of family and friends, or our political world, or our national world. It's really a basic ground of goodness that we all have within us that many of us forget even exists. Maybe we haven't tapped into it in a long time. Maybe we feel as though because we perhaps made some decisions that we might feel are unwholesome, we don't feel deserves to be heard or a part of us. Maybe we feel as though there's a part of us that never had it because we had a crappy childhood and we never felt good about ourselves. Well, I'm here to tell you, for one, that regardless of what's happened to you, regardless of what you've done, and regardless of what you think about other people or what they've done to you, that inside of you, your true nature is actually purely luminous. It's a beautiful thing. And what it is it's space. It's the space to see things for what they really are, as opposed to get stuck into fixed ideas of whatever it is that we somehow have attached to, because our brains do that in terms of the way that our brain and physiology work, and our emotional sort of positions that are stored in the body based on our history, the way that they work. It's understandable that evolutionarily we have this, but we oftentimes don't see things for what they actually are, and we put on some preconceived notion of what it is. And so that could be, for example, a guy walking down the street. We think one thing about them because they're dressed a certain way, or they have a certain skin color, or they have a certain, sort of gait about them. And they may trigger something in us like, oh, that's the guy who assaulted me, or that's the woman who, was mean to me when I was at my last job or something. And we may have an immediate aversion to that person when in fact there's nothing happening there, but we're projecting that and putting that out there. And in much the same way as we do that outside of us, we often do that to ourselves. We think that we aren't as magnificent as we actually really are. Now, I'm not saying that some of us haven't made some poor decisions, that we could act a little bit differently, and that's fine. That's the stuff we can work on. That's our conditioning. Those are our habits. But I'm talking about the way you actually perceive yourself. What if you could turn your eyes inside and you could actually sit with and be with and allow the person who you actually are, the consciousness and the awareness behind the personality, if you will, that you've become, sort of your construction of habits like, I am a mom, I am an employee at this particular company, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a black woman, I'm a multi-ethnic woman, I'm a school teacher, whatever it is, put all that down. Just park that for a minute. I'm in debt. I have millions of dollars in the bank. I have whatever. Let's just see if we can just park all of that and not put ourselves on some hierarchical thing where we're better or worse than other people, or even to ourselves, where we're saying we are better or worse because last year I had this and now I lost it this year, or next year I want to have that and it'll never happen because, I'm not setting it up properly, or I'm not a lucky person, or whatever. Park all that. Put it on the shelf. Has a time and a place to be addressed, but not right now. Right now, we're just talking about your true nature. Can you imagine what it's like to give yourself unconditional warm regard? Do you even know what that means? It sounds so funny. Unconditional warm regard. It's the way like your dog is with you, right? That little guy who loves it when you come home and all they want to do is just yelp and they're so happy to see you and they're wagging their tail for you. What if we could give that to ourselves every day? Because we realize at a base level, there's nothing wrong with us. What if we could do a little self-compassion practice and put our hands over our hearts and just give ourselves a little hug when we felt down, or we were grieving, or we felt a little intimidated or fearful? What if we could actually be there for ourselves and recognize that, like, hey, wait a minute. There may be some stuff going on out there that's a little funky, but I can relate to myself in a way that soothes myself. I can bring my prefrontal cortex online and not just get jacked up with my amygdala and be reactive and all kind of fight or flighty. And I can actually just be with myself a little bit more easily because I'm allowing myself to have a full experience of what it is to be human right now, which includes grief, which includes anger, which includes sadness, frustration, joy, happiness. It includes everything. And hold all those things a little lightly. Not take everything so seriously and fixate on it and grip on it, including the joy and the happiness. Because everything passes like clouds in a sky. Nothing's fixed. So knowing that, learning how to be with in 2018, can we learn how to rest in the present moment and be mindful of what's happening, meaning that we're aware of our changing state, we're aware of when we get triggered, but we're not getting locked in. And we aren't equating the fact that we are feeling anger come up with the fact that somehow we're an angry person. Those are two separate things. We may act unskillfully sometimes and choose some decisions that aren't really choiceful, but are more reactive, and then regret those. And of course we can go forward and, make amends as soon as possible thereafter. But we do it with this girding of the fact that, hey, you know what? That was a tense moment. I didn't create enough space to get back to my true nature of who I really am, which is this luminous being. This really beautiful sense of wanting the best for others and wanting the best for ourselves, but not always knowing exactly how to get there and what to do in order to kind of uncover what's already present and never was not present in us. I'm sure there are times when, you've been at the beach or you're making love or you're out on a nature hike or enjoying a friend's company and having a deep belly laugh where you just feel at home. That is never gone from you. It's always there. So let's just tap into that a little bit more often. So how do we do that? Simple things like gratitude practice, just saying thank you. Thank you for the warm day. Thank you for these better temperatures in New York because it was a little cold out there for a while. Thank you for having hot water in the shower in the morning, a cup of coffee. Little things like that in terms of positive neuroplasticity, when you multiply them over time and you actually let yourself and your body somatically kind of absorb those good feelings, they sink in. And over time, cumulatively, with practice, they make a big difference. Trust me. So you're changing sort of your habits, but you have kind of the energy to do that because you're resting in this place of knowing that your true nature is basic goodness. But because of conditioning, the things that have happened to us, the stuff that's out there that we hadn't been able to control, yeah, it can present some problems sometimes. So we learned how to adapt, and yay, we survived, which is the huge part. And now we can allow ourselves to retrain ourselves and bring our adult self online, and not just let that inner 12-year-old or 5-year-old or 3-year-old that really was more reactive and defensive because it was really trying to navigate tough situations, not let that part of us have to drive the bus of our lives all the time. And gratitude practice is one way that we can begin to shift and create more space and see things with a little bit more clarity. Another thing that, a lot of us, I think, get stuck in is that we fear. We get anxious. We get a lot of, contraction in our body. We kind of feel like we're tense. We're holding our breath and we don't really realize it. And just to take a minute and breathe. So simple. When we feel like there's something going down and we don't know what to do, take that moment and pause. It's not a big deal, but it's a huge deal in terms of not creating more actions that are harming in the long run. So when we're sitting there and we're saying, oh my God, I can't stand my boss, I can't stand my friend, I can't stand my lover, I can't stand my, family or whatever it is, take a breath and pause and think about your true nature. And the fact that this isn't the me that's responding. This is just these old habit patterns that it's reminding me of, the last time this happened and somebody didn't treat me well, and I didn't know how to have a voice, and I didn't know how to be rational and say, when you do this, I feel this, and I need this. Would you be willing to do this? That whole little loop is a process that Marshall Rosenberg has created called nonviolent communications. And it is hugely helpful when you're trying to set boundaries, get your needs met, not be resentful, but really just kind of be who you need to be so that other people can be who they need to be, and you're not putting on the situation more than you need to. So I would recommend trying that sometime if you haven't already. Nonviolent communication, it's great. There's online courses you can take or a book or whatever, but it's basically just stating your needs without resentment and trying to do so upfront if you can, and recognizing also that everybody's just trying to get by and other people get caught. You get caught, other people get caught. Another thing that I wanted to mention is for 2018, what brings you joy? What makes you happy? The other day I was, in my kitchen baking cookies, and I was out there really sort of shaking my booty to some good music because I had a new album that I really loved. And, just reconnect with what it is that makes you happy. Make sure that you know that it's not something that's like fleeting and like can cause more damage, like that big chocolate bar or yelling at someone and then feeling really righteous after that argument. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about deep joy, the kind of well-being that you have within yourself, that you feel connected, not only to yourself, but to others. You feel connected to the generosity that's out there in the world. Tap into that, whatever it is for you. It could be that you just want to go and take a walk in the park. It could be that you need to go paint or take a class in pottery or do a writing class, which I also will be offering online some workshops. But whatever it is that makes you happy, be joyful. I know stuff is going down in the world. You can still make space to be joyful, because in that joy, you're creating a relaxed energy that you can then use to take action in ways that is helpful and not reactive. So you're giving yourself some fuel by this positive neuroplasticity, this gratitude practice, being joyful, enjoying the moment. You're actually refueling yourself. And I won't say arming yourself for battle, but I will say you're making sure that you have a place within you that's all kind of shored up so that when you go forward, you're able to do so with more balance. You're not just strung out from giving all the time. The other thing I wanted to say is about being compassionate. We oftentimes feel like because other people aren't acting the way that we want them to act, that we don't want to be as compassionate to them as we should be. But that's why I've asked everybody to start with doing the U-turn and turning the eyes inside and looking at oneself and saying, wait a minute, I'm not being compassionate to myself. If I'm my own inner critic and judge all the time, how am I ever really going to be able to see other people's actions for what they really are? Why can't I get curious about my own judgments and self-talk and put that down, park that elsewhere, knowing that my basic goodness is present, and then seeing that in someone else? So we do a little practice called loving kindness practice, where we just say, may all beings be happy, may all beings be healthy, may all beings be safe, may all beings live in ease. And just say that every morning when you get up or when you go to bed. Say it a few times. Weave it into your day. Those little breaths. That moment of recognizing that, like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not all of my conditioning. I'm not only of my identifications in terms of, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a journalist, I'm a student, I'm whatever it is that you are. No, you're beyond that. Your consciousness and your awareness is way beyond that. So more specifically, coming into 2018, like I said, I'm going to be offering some mindfulness meditation classes in Brooklyn starting this week and also in March. At Milk Bar Cafe, which is on 6th Avenue in Park Slope. And I'm also going to be doing some consulting via Skype. If anybody wants to reach out, find me on Facebook and we can set up a consultation, and basically offering some mindful writing, mindfulness meditation, and also some somatic techniques that help you regulate your nervous system and take you down a little bit so that you can relax and see the world with a little bit more clarity and not just be so jacked up and contracted. Finally, somebody had asked me a little while ago about faith and hope, and I guess I wanted to just clarify that what's beautiful about knowing that there's nothing wrong with you and sort of resting in your own inner goodness and your own basic nature is being okay, and not of everyone else is being okay, and sort of parsing out the conditioning, which can get a little tangled, and we work on that with our, retraining our habits for the things I mentioned, like positive neuroplasticity, versus hope, which is sort of like, it's a little bit more like powerlessness, as opposed to the faith, which is more like empowered and agency oriented, where I have faith that if I take this leap of faith, that I'm really okay, then I'll have the energy to start doing some of these things that I need to do to change my habits for the better, or to alter them or modify them. Because it's the me that's fine. It's just that the habits may need a little tweaking. Big distinction. You don't get so caught up in shame and all these other things that can be so toxic and really not that helpful whatsoever. So have faith in yourself and, give yourself the space to actually do the things that you need to do. But I wouldn't just say have hope that things are going to get better, that you're going to win the lottery or whatever it is. I'm not so sure that that's the way to go. There's a lot of ways that we can take stock of our own capacities, our own capabilities, our own recognition that there's a lot of stuff that we can do to make the world a better place. And that includes, first and foremost, our own internal world. We need to have our right brain and left brain talking to each other in a proper way, and our bodies talking to each other in a proper way for us to be able to do all this. And a lot of that just starts with mindfulness and presence and taking a deep breath, recognizing that you're all right, knowing that the world is continuing to turn and we are part of the universe and that we project our own universe. So nobody else is seeing what you see in the world. Nobody else is seeing things exactly as you see them. And that gives us a minute to just say, you know what, I'll have compassion for that person because I'm assuming that they see things the way I do, but they don't. So let's just take a moment and get curious about what it is that they're up to. And the more that we can bring that curiosity into 2018, I think the better off that we're going to be. So that's all I have to say for now. You can find me on Facebook, on Skype, on Twitter, on any number of things. If you want to book a session, feel free to let me know. And I look forward to seeing you more in 2018. I'm Francesca Maxime. Take it easy. Bye.